There are some who believe that a third term will bring arrogance. Anybody who knows me, and you can ask the tall man who's a man of God, and that is why I wear this shirt tonight, child of the Most High. I was raised to talk and mix with everybody. And you will know that even if it is to stop and listen to you for 2 minutes and to tell you where and what you must do, there can be and will be no arrogance in this Barbados Labour Party. And this Labour Party must be a disciplined organization. And you have seen a disciplined campaign. And I ask you tonight to recognize that we do it not for anything else, but the fact that our country needs it and needs us at this stage. I ask you tonight, on Wednesday, February the 11th, go out of your houses or your workplaces, and please, humbly I ask you to give this government that has worked in your interest, in the country's interest, the opportunity to continue our work, and let us get on with the business of making Mission 2030 a reality. Good night, and God bless you all. The power of veto in the hands of a few. Earlier this week, President Biden spoke of the need to reform the Security Council. We call and echo for that. But we go further, because we believe that a Security Council that retains the power of veto in the hands of a few will still lead us to war, as we have seen this year. And therefore, the reform must not simply be in its composition, but also be in the removal of that veto. We also believe that the recognition of the G7 countries and the G20 countries as the informal subcommittee of governance of this world, if it is to be fair, must recognize that no longer can we accept that persons call year after year after year for the inclusion of the people of Africa and African descent to be included in the G7 and G20. For how can a world have at its core a subcommittee that excludes more than 1.4, 1.5 billion people of the world and expect it to reflect fairness and transparency in its decision-making? We ask that the determination be made by those countries who must understand that if we are to move from possibilities to realities, we must embrace a transparent framework that allows our people who are losing faith in their institutions and in the governance of this world to understand that fairness means something. That fairness means the ability for all to have a voice, and that we can't only speak to it within the corridors of democracy within the nation state, but it will only mean something when it also is reflected in our international community.
Have you ever heard of a political leader so popular, they win every single seat in their country's parliament? Not once, but twice. Well, meet Mia Mottley, the powerhouse Prime Minister of Barbados. Her recent landslide victory securing a third term isn't just a win for her party. It is a seismic event, sending shockwaves across the Caribbean and making the entire global south sit up and take notice. So, what's her secret sauce? Let's break it down. First, let's talk about that historic win. In January 2022, Mia Mottley's Barbados Labour Party, or BLP, swept all 30 parliamentary seats. This wasn't a fluke. They did the exact same thing in 2018. Winning every single seat is incredibly rare in democratic politics. Doing it twice in a row is almost unheard of. It shows an unprecedented level of trust and support from the Barbadian people. They see her not just as a politician, but as a true leader who has their back. So, how did she earn this rock-solid support? It comes down to her bold and decisive leadership, especially through some seriously tough times. Think about it. She's navigated the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic fallout that came with it, and the unpredictable impact of a volcanic eruption in nearby St. Vincent. Through all this, she's been a steady hand at the wheel, communicating clearly and acting decisively to protect her people. But her influence extends far beyond the shores of Barbados. One of her most significant moves was leading Barbados to become a parliamentary republic, removing Queen Elizabeth II as head of state. This was a powerful statement of self-determination and sovereignty, a move that resonated deeply across the Caribbean, where many nations are still grappling with their colonial past. It wasn't about disrespecting the monarchy. It was about Barbados taking full control of its own destiny, with a Barbadian head of state. This bold step has sparked conversations in other Caribbean nations, like Jamaica and Belize, who are now seriously considering their own paths to becoming republics. Mia Mottley is also a leading voice on the global stage, especially when it comes to climate change. As a leader of a small island nation on the front lines of the climate crisis, she speaks with a moral clarity and urgency that commands attention. At major international conferences like COP26, she hasn't minced words. She has called out larger, wealthier nations for their inaction and their disproportionate contribution to the climate crisis. She champions the cause of the global South, demanding climate justice and fair financing to help vulnerable countries adapt and survive. Her powerful speeches have made her a global climate champion, advocating for the very survival of nations like her own. Her economic vision is just as ambitious. She's been a vocal critic of the international financial system, arguing that it's outdated and unfair to developing countries. She's proposed radical reforms, like the Bridgetown Initiative, which aims to restructure global finance to better support climate action and development in vulnerable nations. She's not just asking for handouts. She's proposing concrete, systemic changes to create a more equitable world. This is why leaders across the global South are listening so intently. She's articulating a vision where developing nations are not just passive recipients of aid, but active partners in shaping a sustainable and just global economy. So, what does Mia Mottley's continued leadership mean? For the Caribbean, it signals a new era of confidence and unity. She's a role model for a new generation of leaders who are unapologetic, assertive, and ready to carve out their own path. For the global South, she's a powerful advocate, a unifying voice demanding a seat at the table where the big decisions are made. She's proving that a small island can have a massive impact, that a leader with courage and a clear vision can challenge the status quo and inspire change on a global scale. Mia Mottley's story is still being written, but her legacy is already clear. She is more than just the Prime Minister of Barbados. She is a Caribbean titan, a global climate warrior, and a beacon of hope for the entire global South. Her roar is being heard around the world, and it's a roar that is impossible to ignore. Keep an eye on her. The world certainly is. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on more stories about the leaders shaping our world. See you next time.
Thank you, Africa, Mama Africa.